What is diamond color? Diamond color refers to the amount of color saturation that exists in a stone. So a lot of people think that diamond color refers to whether or not a stone is yellower or whiter, when in fact that's not entirely true, because diamond color refers to the amount of color saturation. It's just that most people have come to think of the conventional stone as being a stone which is whiter versus yellower, when in fact diamonds exist in other colors. The color scale breaks down into a D to Z scale, where D is the stone that has the lowest color saturation, Z would have a much higher color saturation, and then there are other color saturations that exist beyond that scale, namely the fancy colors. So people know them as fancy yellow, fancy intense yellow, fancy vivid pink. Whatever degree of fancy color exists, it is beyond the D to Z scale that most people would be shopping for.
Diamond color is categorized into groups by using a diamond color chart. There are three main categories on this chart. Those categories are colorless, near colorless, and faint yellow. The colors D, E, and F are grouped into the colorless category. These stones will be completely white and show no yellow at all. The colors G, H, I, and J are categorized into the nearly colorless range. These stones, especially on the lower end of this range, may show a slight tint of yellow on their side view, and the color will show up more if mounted into white metals. The color K, L, and M are categorized into the faint yellow range. These are stones that will show a warm yellow color.
When it comes right down to it, the question that most people ask is, what's the right color for me? So the answer is that it depends. Every person has a slightly different preference for color. Some of it depends on the type of metal you're going to be mounting that stone into, and everyone has a slightly different degree of color sensitivity. Some people can detect more yellow, other people can detect less yellow or other colors in the stone. But on average, most people tend to pick a stone, if they're going to be mounting it into a white metal, they're going to be picking a stone which is I or above. Why is that? At about an I color, the amount of yellowness or other color in the stone is not so discernible. And there was a study that was conducted that found that was actually backed up by the study, and they found that 50% of the people could not tell the difference of an eye-colored stone versus a stone that was higher in color, but whereas stones which drop below the eye color were, at that point people could detect the color difference without comparison and without any instrumentation. So in terms of selecting the right color for you, it is important to keep in mind that most people want to save as much money as possible. So it may not mean getting the whitest stone, but it may mean getting a stone that does the job, so to speak, that looks white, does not appear yellow. So most people would like to have the D, E, or F colored stone, the very colorless stone. But the problem is that color affects price more than any other attribute in a diamond, maybe with the exception of size, maybe with the exception of the carat weight. And so you can have a situation where a stone can be a very low color, say a K color, and a very high clarity, say like a VVS1, in comparison to a stone that has a very high color, say a D or E in color, and have a more moderate clarity, say a VS2 or an SI1. And what's going to happen is that the more colorless stone with a more moderate clarity will end up running considerably more than the low colored stone with a very high clarity. This is that is a very tangible example of something we can show you when you come in here, and it is something that illustrates the amount of degree to which the degree to which color affects price versus clarity. In selecting a stone for color, even though this segment deals with the color rating of a stone, there are two very important attributes that don't necessarily pertain to color per se, but have a very strong impact on the overall appearance of the stone as it comes to color. One of those is the cutting, and even though the stone cutting is an entirely different attribute of the stone, it is something that affects the stone's your choice in selecting a stone for color. Why is that? Because when diamonds are very well cut, they have a tendency to appear whiter. That is actually why when stones are graded for color, the stone is looked at not top down, but rather through its side view. In looking at the stone through its side view, and diamond graders are able to neutralize the stone's cutting, because when the stone is viewed from the top down, the color is somehow neutralized and masked by the fact that the stone is returning a lot of light. That makes the stone appear whiter, and that is something that can be used to your advantage as the consumer. If you buy a stone that is going to have a slightly lower color and thereby enable you to have significant cost savings, you can couple that with a stone that is terrifically cut, and that will enable you to save the money that you would spend on the higher color and get a stone that is very well cut and create an illusion of a higher color that you normally would have had to pay a lot of money for, but you can actually obtain the ideal cut or the premium cut or whatever terrific cutting you can obtain in the shape that you choose that would help to mask that color difference. The other thing that pertains to color, but is not really a factor of color per se, is fluorescence. Fluorescence is something that a lot of people don't understand, and it's actually kind of a tricky attribute of the stone because it really affects color, but it does not factor into the stone's color grade. And the reason why that is because it's what's considered a photoluminescent effect. It affects the color, but depending on the lighting environment that the stone is being viewed in. So how does fluorescence operate? Fluorescence basically occurs in 20% of all stones. When stones have fluorescence, it means that the stones have fluorescent particles that get trapped into the diamond carbon when it's formed in the Earth's crust. When that happens, these fluorescent particles will get excited and they will start to vibrate when they're subjected to any sort of UV lighting environment. So what kind of lighting environments contain UV? Well, most notably would be sunlight. Sunlight has a lot of UV, and so obviously also indoor fluorescent lighting, hence the name, contains UV, and it will cause the stone to fluoresce. When the stone that is fluorescent enters a lighting environment that contains UV, the stone will begin to glow. What does that mean? Most people would call the glow actually a whitish glow, but the industry tends to refer to this glow as blue, a bluish glow. And so that's why most fluorescent ratings you'll find on a stone, if a stone is not none, if it doesn't have any fluorescence, will pertain to some sort of blue, very slight blue, moderate blue, and at times strong blue or very strong blue. And the amount of the fluorescence, the amount of the glow, the amount of the fluorescent particle dictates the strength of that fluorescence rating. Now, why is that important to color? Because in selecting a color, when stones are especially low on the color scale, say a J or a K colored stone, the fluorescence, especially in moderate to strong degrees, causes the stone to appear whiter in these lighting environments, which are fairly common. So the result is you're able to obtain a stone that is lower in color, but has the appearance of actually being higher in color because of that extra glow. Now, when a lot of people, and we have, as wholesalers, we have niche markets of stores that love to buy stones which are both ideally cut and secondly, highly fluorescent on the low colored stones because they're able to achieve the dual impact of these two attributes which don't pertain to color. And because color is so important in affecting the price of a stone, they're able to buy these stones at significant discounts and sell them to very, very pleased customers. Thereby, typically the store makes more money on that. We actually sell them at the same discounts we sell all of our other stones. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's still a very good way to save money, and it creates a very cost-effective option for the consumer who may not be interested in spending a lot of money on a high-colored stone.